Hi guys and welcome back. Now in this lesson we're going to be looking at hashes and symbols. Hashes are arrays that are not limited to having integer indices. So we'll look at what that means in just a moment. Now if you're familiar with Python, think of dictionaries and you'll quickly grasp what hashes are. So hash indices or keys can be almost any object. So we just saw in arrays how indices are digits. But hash indices, or also called keys, as I've just said, can be any object or almost any object. So let's go ahead now and enter our console. So Rails console. And let's start by creating an empty hash. So user equals 2 curly brackets to create an empty hash. Hit enter. We have an empty hash. Let's now look at adding to our hash. So user, square brackets, quotation marks, first underscore name. There we go. Close our square brackets. Equals. So what do we want first name to be? Well, as you probably guessed, Tony, or indeed your first name. So in this line of code, what we have is a key, and the key is here, first underscore name. And the value of that key is on the other side of the equal symbol, which is Tony. Let's hit enter. There we go. Let's do something similar again, this time for last name. Last underscore name, close our square brackets, equals Staunton. I need an easier last name. Close quotation marks, hit enter. Okay, so we have another key, last underscore name, and the value of that key is Staunton. Now let's access the elements of our hash, which is very similar to accessing elements in an array. So user, so that's our hash. So user, and what element do we want to access? Let's go first name. So as if we're creating what we've just done again, but we're going to stop now. So we've just accessed the element Tony. What happens if we just simply type in user? There we go, look at that. The key first name has the value Tony, and the key last name has the value Staunton. So this is a literal representation of our hash. So as we saw, hashes are created using curly braces, which then contain key value pairs. So the key is on the left hand side of the equal symbol, and the value is on the right hand side. Curly braces used to create hashes have nothing to do with the curly braces used in blocks, and we learned about blocks in the previous lesson. Now at this point you might be thinking that hashes and arrays are similar, but hashes don't usually maintain their order. If order is what you're after, then use an array. In the examples above, we created hashes one item at a time, but we can use a literal representation with keys and values separated by the following symbol, equals and the greater than sign. This symbol is called a hash rocket. I like saying that, hash rocket. So let's go and use a hash rocket now in an example. So user equals curly brackets, first underscore name, close our quotation marks, hash rocket. So assign the key, the value Tony, comma, a new key which is last name, close our quotation marks, hash rocket, Staunton. So assign the key, last name, the value Staunton. Let me close my quotation marks there and close my curly brackets. So we've just created a hash with multiple items. So far in our examples, we've used strings as hash keys, but in Rails it is more common to use symbols instead. So symbols look like strings, but begin with a colon instead of being surrounded by quotes. So let's have a look what we mean there. So if I just type in colon name, that's a symbol. Or for our examples, colon first underscore name is also a symbol. Unlike strings, not all characters can be used when creating symbols. For example, the hyphen character. You won't have any problems creating symbols as long as your symbols start with a letter and use normal word characters. So let's take a look at how we can use symbols as hash keys. So let's go again with our user example. So user equals curly brackets. So what did we have? Well, we had first name and last name in our previous examples, but this time let's simply go with name. So that's our name. So that's our key. So assign to name the value Tony Staunton, comma. Again, let's create a new key. This key is going to be colon email, hash rocket. What's that email going to be? Well, that has to be in quotes, and let's just go tony@example.com. Close quotation marks, close our curly brackets, and hit enter. There we go, a new hash. So how can we retrieve values from this new hash? Let's say user, square brackets, colon name. What do you think that's going to do? It's going to give us the value attached to the key name. What happens if we try and retrieve something that is not in our hash? Well, let's have a look. So user, password. nil, because there is nothing there, very similar to what we had in our arrays in a previous lesson. Now, as of Ruby version 1.9, there is a new syntax for hashes to use symbols as keys. Let's take a look. User equals, curly brackets, nothing new here yet, name, okay, so here we go, this is new, name, colon, Tony Staunton. So as you can see here, the difference in the syntax is that the colon is after name, there is a space, and there is no hash rocket. So unfortunately, if I use Ruby version 1.9 or above, I won't be able to say hash rocket anymore. So let's go colon, or comma, sorry, email, colon, what's my email address? Well, it's tony@example.com. Close my curly brackets, hit enter. And as you can see in this new syntax, we get nothing returned. In your Ruby journey, it's going to be useful to know both ways of creating hashes within Rails. So make sure to study the two examples that we just looked at. Okay guys, that's it for this short lesson. In next lesson, we're going to be looking at nested hashes. So I'm sure you can't wait, so I'll see you there.